After I gave birth, Ethan was so worried I'd get postpartum depression and feel insecure that he went out of his way to replace our pretty maid with Bertha, a frumpy, 200-pound housekeeper. Even though his company was incredibly busy, he made sure a different bouquet of fresh flowers and a thoughtful gift were delivered to my luxury postpartum recovery retreat every single day. That was until I received a torn custom designer gown. That very moment, I decided to end it. We are getting a divorce. I don't want a single penny of your money, and I never want to see your face again. The moment he got my text, he literally walked out of a multi-million-dollar business negotiation and rushed over to my retreat. Chloe, I replaced our housekeeper of 8 years just so you wouldn't feel insecure, he panted, trying to defend himself. You said you loved this designer, so I paid double and pre-ordered this gown 6 months in advance. And now you're telling me you want a divorce? What is wrong with you? What more do you want? I coldly threw the expensive gown onto the floor. Why don't you give this gown to your new housekeeper then? I am divorcing you, Ethan. No matter what. It took less than 30 minutes after I sent the text for Ethan to burst into my private suite at the recovery retreat. Beads of sweat lined his forehead. He had obviously run all the way here. Chloe Vance, do you have any idea how big the deal I was negotiating just now was? He was trying to suppress his anger, but his voice was shaking uncontrollably. Just because of one text from you, I left the entire board of directors waiting in the conference room. I pulled the pre-drafted divorce papers from my nightstand and slid them across the table. Perfect timing. Sign this. I get sole custody of our daughter. You can keep all your assets. I don't want a single dime. Ethan's face went pale in an instant. What kind of game are you playing right now? He stared at the document in sheer disbelief. Just because of this gown? If you don't like it, I'll order you another one. 10 of them. 100. Whatever you want. I get it. You're mad at me because I've been too busy to spend time with you lately. But don't use divorce to throw a tantrum. I looked Ethan straight in the eye. You know me, Ethan. I don't joke about things like this. He grabbed my hands, his eyes pleading. Babe, please. I know your hormones are all over the place right now. You can scream at me, you can hit me, but please, don't do this. Outside the open door of my suite, a small crowd started to gather in the hallway. The nurses and some of the other wealthy mothers staying at the retreat began whispering among themselves. What is she drama queening about now? Her husband literally sends her different flowers and gifts every day. He's like the perfect husband. Right? I heard he even fired his hot, young maid and hired a 200-pound, plain-looking housekeeper just so she wouldn't worry about him cheating. Some women are just so ungrateful. She just had a baby and she's already starting drama. The whispers weren't loud, but they were loud enough to carry into the room. Ethan heard them too. He softened his voice, putting on his best caring husband act. Chloe, I know your hormones are making you sensitive right now. We've been together for so many years, and we just had our beautiful baby girl. If something is bothering you, just tell me. We can fix this together. But divorce? You can't just throw that word around. He sounded so incredibly sincere. But all I felt was a cold, bitter disgust. From college sweethearts to marriage, Ethan and I were each other's first loves. We started our business together back in college. During the hardest times, I drank so much at business dinners to secure clients that I ended up with stomach bleeding. In the hospital room, he had held my hand tightly, swearing he would never let me suffer again, promising to make me the happiest woman in the world. And for a long time, he did exactly that. Everyone envied me for having such a perfect partner. During my pregnancy, even a slight frown on my face would make him worry for days. He insisted on doing everything himself whenever he could find the time. To prove he wouldn't stray while I was stuck in recovery, he even replaced our cute, efficient maid of 8 years with Bertha, a frumpy, obese woman. But I simply pulled my hand out of Ethan's grip. I am divorcing you. It's final. Seeing my cold determination, Bertha, who had been hovering outside the door, suddenly pushed her way into the room. Mrs. Sterling, how can you treat Mr. Sterling like this? She yelled in her raspy voice, her chubby face twisted with righteous indignation. Do you have any idea how much Mr. Sterling has done for you? Just because you casually mentioned you liked this designer brand, Mr. Sterling pulled so many strings and paid a fortune to get this custom gown made for you. And you? You just throw a fit and demand a divorce over a dress. I gave her a disgusted look. You're just a housekeeper. What right do you have to raise your voice at me in my own room? Since you care about him so much, why don't you marry him instead? Bertha's face instantly flushed red with embarrassment. Mrs. Sterling, please. Look at me. How could someone like Mr. Sterling ever look at a girl like me? I let out a cold laugh. My own mother hasn't even arrived yet, but you, a housekeeper, sure rushed over here fast, didn't you? Bertha's eyes flickered with panic. She quickly tried to explain, I was just bringing some documents Mr. Sterling left at home. I was just tagging along. When I heard you wanted a divorce, I just got worried. I felt bad for Mr. Sterling. Please don't overthink this. As she spoke, she actually started crying. I'd been fat since I was a kid. No boy ever looked at me in school. If Mr. Sterling hadn't taken pity on me and given me this job, I wouldn't even have the money to pay for my mom's medical bills. The onlookers outside whispered as they took in Bertha's bloated frame and acne-scarred face. They shook their heads. Is this wife crazy? She's actually insecure about a housekeeper who looks like that? Exactly. Look at her size. She's literally twice the size of her husband. What could he possibly see in her? If I looked like that housekeeper, I wouldn't even dare to step out of the house, let alone try to steal someone's husband. Hearing the crowd take his side, Ethan's confidence seemed to return. He squeezed my hand tightly and whispered, Chloe, even strangers can see how ridiculous this is. Why are you being so stubborn? I hired Bertha specifically so you wouldn't have to worry about anything during your recovery. We've been together for years. Why can't you just trust me? I looked at him and sneered. Fine. Fire her right now. Ethan froze. A flash of hesitation crossed his eyes. Mrs. Sterling. Bertha suddenly fell to her knees, tears streaming down her round cheeks. Mrs. Sterling, my mother is in end-stage kidney failure. She needs dialysis every week, and my salary is the only thing keeping her alive. I know I'm ugly and I hurt your eyes. I promise I'll only do the cleaning and cooking when you're not around. I will never show my face to you again. Please, please don't let Mr. Sterling fire me. She wept hysterically, her heavy frame shaking with each sob. Sympathetic murmurs immediately broke out from the crowd in the hallway. Oh my God, she's so pitiful. Can't the wife show some mercy? Exactly. The wife is just paranoid. The poor housekeeper did nothing wrong. I get that post-pregnancy hormones make you emotional, but this is just straight-up bullying. The whispers grew louder. Bertha even reached out and grabbed the hem of my robe. Mrs. Sterling, I swear I'll stay far away from Mr. Sterling. Please, just give me and my mother a chance to survive. Seeing my face remain completely emotionless, Ethan's expression hardened. Chloe, this is too much. Why do you have to bully a poor housekeeper? Watching the two of them perform their little sob story, I wanted to laugh. Ethan, you know exactly what dirty laundry you've been hiding. Stop treating me like an idiot. I didn't want to waste any more words. I threw the divorce papers directly at his face. Right then, the crowd parted, and my mother rushed into the room. Her face was pale with worry as she pushed through the onlookers to get to my bedside. Chloe. My sweet girl, what on earth is going on? Why are you suddenly talking about divorce? Tell me, did Ethan do something to hurt you? If you're hurting, tell me. I'm right here. I won't let anyone mistreat you. Looking into my mother's worried eyes, my throat tightened. My mom had always spoiled me. Ever since I got pregnant, she had protected me like I was made of glass. She and my dad had a perfect marriage, and she had always assumed Ethan and I were just as happy. Hearing about the divorce was a complete shock to her. I opened my mouth, but the words felt heavy. Seeing my hesitation, Ethan quickly stepped forward. He looked incredibly polite and humble. Mom, thank God you're here. Please help me talk to Chloe. I think I've just been too busy with work lately and haven't spent enough time with her. She's upset, and now she's taking it out on our marriage. His words immediately painted him as the victim to the crowd outside. See? What a great guy. He's taking all the blame. Honestly, postpartum depression is real, but threatening divorce every second is just toxic. He literally sends flowers and gifts every day. Sure, he's busy, but his heart is in the right place. What else does she want? My mother listened to the murmurs, then looked at Ethan's seemingly sincere face. Her brow furrowed slightly. But she still turned to me gently. Chloe, I know you wouldn't make a scene for no reason. What is it really? As she spoke, her eyes drifted to Bertha, who was trying to shrink her massive body into the corner of the room. Seeing Bertha's plain, overweight appearance, a flash of confusion crossed my mother's eyes. Ethan replaced your old maid with someone, so plain, just to make sure you felt secure, my mother said carefully, choosing her words. If he went to those lengths. Chloe, are you sure you aren't just feeling lonely because he's been working so much? No, Mom, I said, lifting my head. My voice was quiet but steady. It's not because he's busy. I am divorcing him. And nothing will change my mind. Babe. Ethan's eyes welled with tears. What did I do wrong? Just tell me and I'll fix it. I swear I'll fix it. I can put the company on hold. I'll stay here with you and the baby every day, okay? Our daughter is so small. She needs a father. Please don't talk about divorce anymore. Hearing him mention our daughter, my eyes involuntarily drifted to the bassinet where my baby girl was sleeping peacefully. Bertha chimed in again, Mrs. Sterling, this is all my fault. If you really can't stand the sight of me, I'll leave. I'll sell my own blood to pay for my mom's dialysis. I can't let you and Mr. Sterling divorce because of me. That comment was the final straw for the crowd outside. Are you kidding me? She's literally forcing this poor girl to sell her blood. She is heartless. That poor housekeeper. People in the hallway started openly criticizing me, their voices rising. The whole scene was so absurd it was almost comical. Any remaining doubt in my heart vanished completely. I pushed the divorce papers closer to Ethan. Ethan, if you want to play the saint and charity case for her and her sick mother, go ahead. It has nothing to do with me. Sign the papers, and you can play hero all you want. I won't care. But I've changed my mind. I'm not just taking our daughter. I'm stripping you of every single asset. You are leaving with nothing. The words, leaving with nothing, sent a shockwave through the room. Ethan's face twisted. Chloe Vance, do you even hear yourself? I looked at him, completely calm. You heard me. I want you to leave with absolutely nothing. Are you out of your mind? He hissed under his breath. I built this company with my own blood, sweat, and tears. On what grounds are you demanding my assets? Because of your baseless, paranoid accusations? Your blood, sweat, and tears? I repeated softly. Ethan, did you forget where the seed money and the core technology for the company came from? Did you forget how many times I had to bail you out of your own messes? I stared him down. Last year, when your terrible decision-making caused a massive cash flow crisis, who was the one who used her family connections to secure the emergency funding that saved us? And now you think you own it all? I let out a cold chuckle. How do you sleep at night, using my family's resources while gaslighting me like I'm an idiot? I have never lied to you. Ethan defended himself passionately. Chloe, you can't just make things up because you're in a bad mood. You need proof. Proof. I looked at him and smirked. Don't worry. I have all the proof I need. It's coming. Right now, I just want to see your attitude. Are you going to sign, or not? My mother looked between the two of us, torn. Chloe, sweetie, please tell me what's actually going on. You can't just get a divorce over a misunderstanding. But if you're saying it's because of the housekeeper, surely there's a mistake. Ethan immediately seized on my mother's doubt. Mom. Exactly. Think about it. Why would I ever do anything with her? What could I possibly gain from that? He pointed at Bertha, his voice dripping with insulted pride. Yes, I admit I've been busy and haven't been home much. But she can't just slander me like this. Beside him, Bertha kept her head down, looking like a trembling, innocent victim. Fine. I finally spoke. The room fell dead silent. Everyone stared at me. Since you all want a reason so badly, and since you're forcing me to drag this trash into the light. I took a deep breath, speaking clearly so everyone could hear. I'll tell you exactly why I am divorcing this man. The silence in the room stretched so thin it felt like a drawn wire about to snap. Outside the suite, the onlookers had gone dead quiet. The nurses, the wealthy socialite mothers, the security guards, everyone held their breath, waiting for my answer. Ethan stood with his hands raised in a theatrical gesture of injured innocence, while Bertha cowered on the floor, weeping pitifully into her apron. Her heavy frame shaking with manufactured despair. I looked at Ethan. Then I looked down at Bertha. Slowly, I reached over to my nightstand, picked up my phone, and tapped the screen. You want proof, Ethan? I said, my voice cutting through the tension like a scalpel. You want everyone here to know why I'm divorcing you? I didn't wait for him to answer. I swiped across the screen and projected my phone's display directly onto the large high-definition smart television mounted on the wall of my recovery suite. A heavy, sickening hum filled the room as the screen flickered to life. Ethan's eyes widened slightly, a sudden flicker of unease darting across his features. Chloe, whatever fake evidence you bought off some tabloid. Shut up, Ethan, my mother snapped, her voice like steel. She had stepped beside my bed, her eyes fixed on the television screen. The TV displayed a high-definition video feed timestamped just 3 nights ago, the night I was in the delivery room, enduring 16 hours of excruciating labor to bring our daughter into the world. The video showed the master bedroom of our private estate. On the screen, Bertha, the frumpy, 200-pound, acne-scarred housekeeper, walked into the frame. But she wasn't carrying a mop or a tray of cleaning supplies. She walked over to the vanity, unzipped the back of her bulky, oversized clothes, and reached up to her neck. The crowd in the hallway gasped in collective horror. On the screen, Bertha unpeeled a complex, medical-grade silicone neck and face prosthetic, revealing smooth, porcelain skin beneath. She unhooked a heavy, weighted fat suit from around her torso and let it drop to the floor. Standing in the middle of our master bedroom was not an obese, plain-looking housekeeper in her late 40s. It was a striking, slender, 24-year-old woman with sharp features, high cheekbones, and dark, predatory eyes. Bella Vance. My father's illegitimate daughter from a long-buried affair, the very woman my family had paid millions to keep out of our lives 5 years ago. The hallway erupted into an uproar of shocked cries. Oh my God. Is that a padded suit? She was wearing a prosthetic mask. On the video, Ethan walked into the frame, completely naked from the waist up. He wrapped his arms around Bella's waist, pulling her flush against him, kissing her neck with a hunger he had never shown me in years. Did you lock the nursery door? Bella's voice on the video came through the sweet surround sound speakers, crisp, clear, and dripping with malicious amusement. It was light, melodic, and completely devoid of the raspy, uneducated drawl Bertha had been using all morning. The house is empty, babe, Ethan's voice echoed into the room. Chloe's at the hospital screaming her lungs out. The doctors say she might need an emergency C-section. We have all night. Did my gown arrive? Bella giggled on the recording, leaning back against the vanity. The custom piece you promised me? It's in the wardrobe, Ethan murmured, kissing her lips. Size 2. Italian. Silk. Cost me a fortune, but you deserve it, my queen. On the screen, Bella excitedly unboxed the very custom designer gown that now lay crumpled on my floor. She squeezed her body into it, laughing as Ethan unbuttoned his trousers. They began tearing at each other right there in front of my vanity mirror. In their frantic, intoxicated lust, Bella hooked her heel into the delicate hem of the custom dress, ripping the back seam right open with a sharp, tearing sound. Oops, Bella laughed on the tape, tossing the ruined gown onto the floor. Guess your little wife won't be able to wear it after all. Who cares? Ethan sneered on the recording, pressing her down onto our bed. I'll just have it reboxed and sent to her recovery retreat tomorrow. She's so blinded by postpartum hormones and gratitude for those daily flowers I order from an assistant that she'll never notice a pulled seam. She thinks I'm a saint for firing our old maid and hiring an ugly one. You're cruel, Ethan, Bella purred. I love it. I'm not cruel, baby. I'm efficient. Once she signs over the remaining voting shares of Vance Logistics to me next month, we can finally stop this ridiculous disguise nonsense. We'll declare her mentally unfit due to postpartum depression, check her into a private asylum, and take full custody of the baby and the family trust. The video paused. The silence that followed was suffocating. Ethan's face had drained of every drop of color. He stood frozen, his mouth half open, looking like a corpse that had just been dragged out of ice. On the floor, the woman who had been whimpering about her mother's kidney failure froze. The pathetic, shivering posture dissolved instantly. Bella looked up, her acne-scarred prosthetic mask contorted in a mixture of rage, shock, and pure embarrassment. The onlookers in the hallway were staring at Ethan and Bertha with absolute disgust. Monster. One of the mothers whispered. He was planning to put her in an asylum, another shouted. Call the police. They were trying to ruin her. My mother turned slowly toward Ethan. The gentle, diplomatic expression she had carried earlier was entirely gone, replaced by a cold, lethal fury that only decades of high society power could forge. Slap. The sound rang through the room like a gunshot. My mother had stepped forward and delivered a backhand so severe it knocked Ethan back 2 paces, sending him stumbling into the edge of the credenza. A streak of crimson leaked from the corner of his mouth. You treacherous, ungrateful swine, my mother breathed, her voice low and shaking with icy venom. My husband gave you a life. My daughter built your company. And you brought an illegitimate rat into my daughter's home to conspire against her? Mom, listen to me. Ethan stammered, scrambling to hold his bloodied lip. His eyes darting frantically around the room as if searching for an escape. It's not what it looks like. I was manipulated. Bella threatened to leak company secrets if I didn't. Shut up, Ethan, I said quietly, leaning back against my pillows. Save it for the grand jury. Bella scrambled off the floor, tearing at the fake rubber skin around her jaw in frustration until the mask peeled away, revealing her actual, bitter face beneath the latex. She spat a glob of stage makeup onto the marble floor and glared at me with pure hatred. You think you're so smart, don't you, Chloe? Bella spat out, her voice sharp and vicious. You think you won? Ethan never loved you. He came to me every single night while you were bloated and waddling around like a pregnant cow. He hated touching you. Bella, shut the hell up. Ethan screamed, turning on her in panic. Shut your mouth. Why should I? Bella shrieked, her mask swinging wildly from her hand. The cat's out of the bag. You promised me we'd have her trust fund by the end of the year. You promised me I wouldn't have to wear this disgusting, sweaty rubber suit anymore. Security, I called out calmly. 4 heavily armed guards from the retreat, whom my father had personally dispatched 2 hours before Ethan arrived, stepped into the room. Escort these 2 off the premises, I said, pointing at Ethan and Bella. If either of them steps within 500 yards of this building again, shoot them for trespassing. Chloe, please. Ethan fell to his knees, tears finally bursting from his eyes, not out of remorse, but out of total, desperate terror. Chloe, we have a daughter. Think of baby Lily. You can't ruin me like this. I left the board meeting for you. The contract. Oh, right. The board meeting, I interrupted, a cruel smile touching my lips. Did you wonder why I sent that divorce text right in the middle of your multi-million-dollar deal? Ethan blinked, his tear-streaked face going completely rigid. What did you do? I picked up my glass of warm water, taking a slow sip before looking him dead in the eye. While you were busy running down the hallway to save your marriage, my legal team was presenting this exact video to the board of directors at Sterling Enterprises. Ethan's breathing stopped. By now, I continued, checking my watch, the board has voted unanimously to remove you as CEO for extreme gross negligence, moral turpitude, and embezzlement of corporate funds to purchase illegal silicone prosthetics and private luxury assets. The Vance Group has pulled its entire 52% equity share. Sterling Enterprises isn't negotiating a multi-million-dollar deal anymore, Ethan. It's filing for liquidation. Ethan's phone began to ring inside his jacket pocket. Then it rang again. And again. A relentless barrage of notifications, calls, and emergency alerts lit up his screen like a strobe light. He pulled the phone out with trembling hands. The screen displayed dozens of missed calls from his vice president, the chief financial officer, the company's legal counsel, and major shareholders. A news banner popped up at the top of his screen. Breaking news, Sterling Enterprises shares plummet 85% following CEO Ethan Sterling's sudden ouster amid embezzlement and domestic fraud scandal. No. Ethan mumbled, dropping his phone onto the carpet. He looked up at me, his eyes completely hollowed out. You destroyed everything. In 30 minutes? No, Ethan, I said, leaning forward, my eyes sharp as diamonds. You destroyed everything the moment you allowed her into my home. I simply spent 30 minutes cleaning up the trash. The security guard stepped forward, grabbing Ethan by his arms. He didn't even resist as they hoisted him to his feet. He looked like a puppet with its strings cut. Bella tried to scratch at one of the guards, screaming curses, but she was roughly restrained and cuffed. You bitch. You ruined my life. My mother deserved that money. Your mother is sitting in a penthouse suite in Miami living off the $5 million my family gave her to stay away from us, my mother snapped, stepping up to Bella and looking down at her with cold disgust. Did you really think we wouldn't track her bank accounts? You lied about the kidney failure. Just to pull on my daughter's heartstrings. You're as pathetic as your deadbeat father was. Bella went dead silent, her face turning pale as she realized every single layer of her lie had been thoroughly researched and dismantled long before today. As the guards dragged the two of them down the hallway, the crowd of patients and nurses parted, hurling insults and curses at Ethan and Bella as they were marched out in shame. Once the door was closed, the suite fell back into silence. My mother walked over to the side of my bed, reaching down to take my hand. Her fingers were trembling, but her posture was unyielding. "Are you all right, my sweet girl?" she whispered, her eyes shining with unshed tears. "Did you hold all of this in while you were giving birth?" I looked toward the corner of the room, where my infant daughter, Lily, lay sleeping quietly in her luxury bassinet, completely oblivious to the storm that had just swept through the room. "I had to, Mom," I said softly, feeling a lump rise in my throat for the first time. If I had confronted him earlier, he would have hidden the assets. He would have transferred the intellectual property to offshore accounts. I needed him comfortable. I needed him to feel completely untouchable. My mother pulled me into a gentle hug, wrapping her arms around me as I finally let out a long, shuddering breath. "You are your father's daughter," she whispered into my hair. "Now, let's finish him off completely." Over the next 48 hours, the full scale of my counterstrike unfolded with ruthless, military precision. I hadn't just sat around during my pregnancy feeling paranoid. The moment Ethan brought Bertha into the house 6 months ago under the guise of an overweight, frumpy housekeeper, my instincts had screamed at me. A man who spent $5,000 a month on custom suits doesn't suddenly hire an unqualified housekeeper with zero background checks unless he has an ulterior motive. I had hired an elite private intelligence firm, ex-Mossad investigators, to monitor every square inch of our property, install microcameras in the master wing, and trace every single financial transaction Ethan made. What they found had shocked even me. Ethan hadn't just cheated. He and Bella had been plotting to slowly poison me with microdoses of synthetic thyroid hormones disguised as prenatal vitamins. The goal was to induce severe postpartum psychosis, heart palpitations, and emotional instability after I gave birth, creating an ironclad medical paper trail to commit me to a high-security psychiatric facility in Switzerland. Once I was declared legally incapacitated, Ethan, as my husband, would take control of my personal estate, the Vance Trust Fund, worth upwards of $400 million, and the sole custody of our newborn daughter. The torn custom designer gown wasn't just a mistake, it was the catalyst I had been waiting for to drop the hammer. By day 3 of my postnatal recovery, Ethan was sitting in a federal holding cell, unable to post the $10 million bail set by a judge who had reviewed the forensic evidence of attempted poisoning, wire fraud, and grand larceny. Bella was locked in the adjacent cell block, facing felony charges of conspiracy to commit murder, corporate espionage, and identity fraud. Sitting in my private sunroom at the retreat, dressed in a crisp silk robe, I met with my lead attorney, Arthur Vance, my father's cousin and the most feared corporate litigator in the country. "Ethan's public defense lawyer reached out this morning," Arthur said, sliding a thick blue folder across the marble coffee table. "He's begging for a plea deal. Ethan is willing to sign over all his remaining personal assets, sign the divorce papers giving you 100% custody, and waive all parental rights to Lily if you agree to drop the criminal attempted poisoning charges." I took a slow sip of my herbal tea, looking out at the manicured gardens of the retreat. "Drop the criminal charges?" I asked softly, turning my gaze back to Arthur. "Why would I do that? He claims he's facing 20 to 30 years in federal prison if the attempted poisoning charge sticks," Arthur replied, a dry, cold smile playing on his lips. "He's terrified, Chloe. The men inside the federal detention center found out what he did to a woman who just gave birth. He's already been put on protective suicide watch after getting beaten in the cafeteria yesterday." "Good," I said without a trace of emotion. "Tell his lawyer there will be no plea deal. I don't need him to voluntarily sign over his assets, the civil court will seize them anyway to satisfy the $50 million judgment Sterling Enterprises owes the Vance Group." "And the parental rights?" Arthur asked. "He was planning to lock me in an asylum and take my daughter," I replied, my voice dropping an octave, filled with an ancient, dark fury. "I am going to erase him from her life so thoroughly that when she grows up, she won't even know his name." 2 weeks later. The day of the preliminary hearing arrived. Although I was still in my postpartum recovery period, I insisted on attending. In person. I wore a tailored ivory pantsuit, my dark hair pulled back into a sleek, flawless chignon, leaning slightly on my mother's arm as we entered the federal courthouse. The hallway was packed with press. Flashbulbs exploded like lightning strikes as I walked past the cameras, guarded by a squad of private security. Inside the courtroom, Ethan was brought out in orange prison scrubs, cuffed at the wrists and ankles. The transformation in just 14 days was staggering. The charismatic, handsome CEO who used to spend hours styling his hair and strutting through boardrooms was entirely gone. His hair was greasy and thinning, his face was bruised and hollowed out, and his shoulders were hunched in a posture of total defeat. When he saw me enter the room, a spark of desperate hope flared in his sunken eyes. "Chloe," he cried out, straining against his chains as the guards forced him down into the defense chair. "Chloe, please look at me. Please." I didn't look at him. I took my seat beside Arthur at the plaintiff table, my posture straight, my expression impassive. Beside Ethan sat Bella, also in prison attire. Without her makeup, her expensive skincare, and her elaborate disguise, she looked small, bitter, and pathetic. She stared at the polished mahogany table, refusing to make eye contact with anyone. The judge slammed the gavel down. Court is now in session. Case number 4402. The State versus Ethan Sterling and Bella Vance. The prosecution opened by laying out the stack of physical evidence. Synthetic thyroid compounds seized from the master bedroom. Encrypted text messages between Ethan and Bella detailing the exact timeline for putting me into an asylum. Financial records showing Ethan had siphoned over $8 million from Sterling Enterprises to an offshore account in the Cayman Islands registered under Bella's birth name. The video recording captured inside my home. As the prosecutor read through the indictment, listing charge after charge, conspiracy to commit first-degree murder, wire fraud, identity theft, money laundering, grand larceny, Ethan began to sob quietly at his table. His high-priced defense attorney tried to speak. "Your Honor, my client was under immense corporate stress. He suffered a severe mental break." "Save it, counselor," Judge Reynolds interrupted coldly. "I have reviewed the audio logs. Your client explicitly stated he was acting out of greed to seize the Vance Trust Fund. There is no insanity here. There is only calculated sociopathic malice." The judge turned his eyes down toward Ethan. In light of the overwhelming physical evidence and the extreme risk to human life involved in the administration of unprescribed chemical substances to a pregnant and postpartum mother, bail is permanently revoked. Defendant Sterling and Defendant Vance will remain in custody pending full criminal trial. Ethan slumped forward, his forehead slamming against the defense table as he let out a choked, desperate wail. "Chloe!" he screamed as the guards unceremoniously hauled him to his feet to take him back to the holding cells. "Chloe, please. I'm sorry. I was mad. I was jealous of your family. I loved you, Chloe. Please don't do this to me. Think of Lily. She needs her father." I slowly turned my head and met his gaze for the first time all morning. "Lily doesn't have a father," I said, my voice echoing clearly through the courtroom. "She only has a mother. And a mother who protects her." Ethan's face collapsed in utter horror as the metal doors of the holding cell slammed shut behind him, cutting off his frantic screams. 6 months later. The summer sun streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows of my newly renovated corner office at the top of the Vance Tower in the heart of the financial district. The name Sterling Enterprises had been erased from the building, from the corporate registry, and from the industry entirely. Its assets had been bought for pennies on the dollar by Vance Logistics, reorganized, and integrated into our primary supply chain empire. I had officially taken the seat as managing director, running the operations with an efficiency that had the board praising my leadership at every meeting. A soft knock sounded at my door. My executive assistant stepped in, carrying a leather-bound legal document. "Mrs. Vance, the final decree has arrived from the federal court." I took the document from her hands. It was the official termination of Ethan Sterling's parental rights, accompanied by the final criminal sentencing documents. Ethan had received 25 years in maximum security federal prison without the possibility of parole for 15 years. Bella had been sentenced to 18 years for her role in the conspiracy and financial fraud. Their offshore accounts had been seized and liquidated, returning every single cent to my trust. Ethan's family name was disgraced, his personal assets dissolved to pay court fees, and his former associates had long burned any bridge that connected them to him. I flipped to the last page of the document. Attached was a new birth certificate. For my daughter. Name, Lily Vance. Father, none listed. I picked up my pen, signed the final line of acknowledgement, and closed the folder. A quiet giggle sounded from the luxury nursery nook set up in the corner of my massive office. I stood up, smoothing down my red silk blouse, and walked over to the crib. 6-month-old Lily was sitting up, clutching a plush rabbit, her bright blue eyes, so full of life, untainted by the dark greed of the man who helped create her, looking up at me with pure, unconditional love. I reached down and lifted her into my arms, pressing a long, warm kiss against her soft forehead. My phone on the desk chimed with a news update. I glanced over. Former CEO Ethan Sterling's final appeal denied by Federal Circuit Court, to serve full 25-year sentence in maximum security. I didn't even bother clicking the article. I reached out, swiped the notification away, and turned off the screen completely. Come on, my sweet girl, I whispered to Lily, holding her close as I walked over to the window, looking out over the sprawling, glowing skyline of the city that was now ours. Let's go home.